Hey y'all. So, as you already know, we have a super powerful full moon that is coming upon us on August the 19th, 2024, in the sign of Aquarius. And at this particular time, along with the full moon, the energy in the skies are bringing forth chaos, tension, struggle, just thickness, and not necessarily bad, change and transformation and sudden shocking events, all of those things. But we're going to talk about why this full moon and all of those energies at this particular moment in time is doing what they're doing. We're going to talk about those details, tease it out, and describe how it's going to be affecting each and every one of you based on your sun, moon, or rising signs. But first, before we even get into that, let's talk about what a full moon actually is. So a full moon is an opposition between the moon and the sun. And sometimes we can categorize oppositions as challenging energy. It really just depends on what sign the sun and the moon are in, and do those signs or their ruling planets, do they play nicely? Right? So you have the sun and the moon sitting across from each other, giving us our full moon. And in full moon energies bring forth with it a burst of energy. A surge of energy that energizes us to move and to do things, to make action, where we didn't before. So if you had a desire to change something, if you had an idea, if you wanted to do something, and you have a full moon hitting it with its burst of energy, you're going to move on that thing. But full moon's energy is so unrefined, is so unprocessed. It's kind of chaotic in itself, because it's just new and it's just a burst of thing. Although it has an energy of bringing things to fruition. It has an energy of bringing things to light, but it's still untamed because we haven't had a chance to sit with that energy and direct it in the way that we want it to do, and to bring about what we want it to bring about, because it hits us so suddenly. Now, what's special about this full moon and all of its glory, bringing its energy with it, it's going to be very close to us. And so this is why it's a super moon. A super full moon happens when the moon is close to us. So we feel its energy a bit more potently, right? Because it's closer to us. So we have that going on. Not only do we have that going on, we have some other challenging conversations in the skies, or challenging conversations between the planets that are happening in the skies. And I call it conversations because it's easier to kind of convey exactly what's happening. And so if you think about it, think about yourself when you're having a conversation with your best friend, or you're having a conversation with somebody that you get along with. The energy is easy. You're passing ideas, you're laughing, you're keying, and everything is all good because the energy between you and that person, or between you and those people, if it's a group of friends, it's all good. But imagine the person that you don't get along with at work because they always got a snide remark. They always are too critical. They always are very nosy. They always are, you name it. They're doing something that just rubs you the wrong way, or you're doing something that rubs them the wrong way, and the energy between you is just not good. Or every time you get in a room with somebody, you have it's argument, it's frustration, it's, you know what I mean? It's just not easy. And so I like for you to think about it that way, because this is actually what's happening in the sky. It's not the easy conversations that's happening. It's the ones that are hard. It's the one that brings intensity. It's the ones that bring the challenges and the struggles and the conflict. That is what's actually happening. And that is, those conversations are being energized by the energy that the moon is bringing. So what are those aspects or those conversations like that are happening in the sky? Number one, we have oppositions. Number two, we have squares. So oppositions aren't necessarily bad, but they do bring intensity, and it depends on how those planets actually gel or not with each other. So an opposition is the planets standing directly across from one another, right? So like the sun and the moon is directly across from each other. The moon is going to be in Aquarius and the sun is going to be in Leo. That's 180-degree opposition. So we have other oppositions that's coming along. And so oppositions, all of these conversations in the sky, they beg certain questions. And so oppositions, you want to know, the first thing you want to ask yourself when you figure out, is this going to be an opposition, is, okay, what is the level of intensity going to be? Is this aspect bringing balance? Is it bringing challenge? Do these planets get along? Is it a you scratch my back, I scratch your back thing? You do for me, I do, like, you know what I mean? Like, we get along? Or is it going to be a fight? Do they just not mix like oil and water? That's what you need to find out what's going on. And this is what we're going to talk about. The other type of conversation that's going on is the square. And the square is a 90-degree aspect. It's a hard angle. This is a full-on battle, okay? A full-on battle is bringing tension, it's bringing struggle, it's bringing conflict. And the questions that you should be asking when we're having squares is, what is the solution going to be? Because you have to figure out the solution. Like, what is coming up that's causing this challenge that I have to solve? Right? Also, what squares do is they force you to ask the question, where do I find my strength in this? Right? I know there are certain challenges that I have gone through, and I didn't even know that I had the strength that I had until that challenge, that conflict, that struggle brought it out of me. And so that is what the square is going to do. So it ain't necessarily bad, in my opinion. I'm not going to say I like, because it's not always comfortable, but the squares with the challenging energy that it brings, it always brings, the aftermath is the staying power of what that challenge is unearthing, right? And so when you're having a square, you want to ask yourself, who am I now? Who do I want to be, or who will I be when this challenge is over? Right? And that's all about how you're going to solve that conflict, right? So what is the challenge trying to teach you is what you need to be asking, right? How can I dig deep and find my strength? Okay. And so, yes, people are talking about, oh, you need to go hide under a rock. You need to be scared, and you need to do. No, you don't need to do that. You need to be brave, right? And so people, yes, they're going to be not acting like themselves. You might not be acting like yourself, but if you're informed, you need to check that. Like, you're here and you're having this conversation with me right now. If you feel yourself being irrational, you need to check that shit. You need to calm it down, right? So what I'm saying is, understand that the energy is going to bring about irrational behavior in people. It's going to bring shocking things out. Things are going to shock you. Right? The energy might want to take something away from you, but no, if it takes something away from you, that thing that is taken away from you, it don't serve you, and it's going to replace it with something that will, either immediately or eventually. Okay. But it's your job to figure out what the energy is trying to move you toward. How are you going to do that? By asking yourself those questions that we just asked a few moments ago, right? And so to become a better you got to figure out what these challenges are actually trying to bring you, right? It's the challenges, it's the struggles that teach you your strength. It shows you the depths of who you are. It rips layers into you. And no, it might not always be comfortable. comfortable, but you know what? You do become better. And right, without having those, you will never know who you can be. You never know what you can accomplish. So welcome the challenges. Welcome this energy. Know what's going on so that you can use it to get to where you have to go. And understand that whatever experience it brings you, your whole being is going to know why you will or you won't do something, why you will be with somebody, why you won't, why you will do that job, why you won't, why you will put that business in play, why you won't, why you will have that relationship, while you won't. And guess what? Every single last fiber of you, because of the experience that the challenge is bringing you, is going to know why you will or you won't. And I always tell my son, when you have an experience that moves you in such a way, your toenails, why you know why you going to do something and why you won't. So welcome this. Don't hide. Be brave. Right? There will be heightened emotions, but keep your composure. And you know what? The composed is always in control. The composed always win. Just be prepared. And this is why you're here, because I'm preparing you, right? So if it's raining, you want to have your raincoat, your rain boots, and your umbrella. If you're going to be stepping into battle, you want to have your spear. You want to have your sword. You want to have your shield. And you want to have your plan. You want to have a strategy, right? Because you can't win without a strategy. All right. So what are some of those challenging aspects that are happening? We're going to be having on August the 18th. So I'm going a couple days. The new moon is actually going to be on the 19th. So we got to get into what the energy is doing on the days leading up to the full moon, because like I said, the energy from the full moon is energizing all of this stuff. And you can feel the energy from this particular full moon at least a week or two before and a week or two after. So on August the 18th, Mercury is moving into Leo, and it's going to square Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is all about, it can be all about chaos. It jostles you. It's all about shocking. It's about rebellion. It's about all of those things that's unconventional. It's about the freedom. It's about the split. It's about breaking things apart. Okay. And Mercury is squaring that. So Mercury right now is actually in retrograde. So Mercury in retrograde is like, this is another thing. Like, this is another layer of the conversations that's happening in the sky. Like, with Mercury being retrograde, it's an element of things from the past coming forward, right? And you're going to probably learn something with regards to where it touches in your house that you didn't know before. You're going to have a piece of information that you didn't know. It might be shocking in a good way or a bad way, for better or worse. You're going to find out. Okay. Then, the same day that it actually squares Uranus, Mercury is going to join the sun. And sometimes we say that when a planet joins the sun, its power can be turned down because it's being burned by the sun. We call that being combust. But in this case, it's far enough away from the sun where it's going to be getting good shimmers from the sun. It's going to be getting highlights. We call this a cazimi. This is auspicious. This is luck and opportunity. And so that information that you actually might get might be the information that you need to make the move that you need to make, the one piece that was missing from the puzzle, the one thing that was hidden from you. So you might learn something that's like, yeah, okay, I got this. All right. So you can make a move to becoming a better you, right? By having that information. Now, on the 19th, the next day, we have Venus in Virgo, and it's squaring Jupiter. Now, that may not be so bad because Venus and Jupiter are what we call benefics. They give gifts. They bring us good things, right? And so Venus rules our money. Venus rules our love. Jupiter just gives blessing on blessing, and it expands everything that it touches. But in this square between the two, it might be like, okay, it's showing you where you overdid something, because Jupiter expands something. So in love, Where are you allowing things to fly that probably shouldn't fly? Where are you sweeping things under a rug? Like, how long have you actually done that? Or how long has your partner allowed you to get away with some stuff? Right now, you just might not be able to get away with it. Okay. Where have you overspent? If we're talking about money, right? Where have you overdone your beauty treatments? Like, you need to slow down on the Botox. Quit with them lip injections right now. I'm joking, but I'm saying, like, Venus rules beauty. And so Jupiter squaring Venus is showing you, like, you OD'd, you overdid it. Chill out. Okay. And in the same day, Venus is going to oppose Saturn. And so that's not necessarily good, because Saturn is we call Saturn the taskmaster, but I like Saturn is like that teacher that has the ruler that sticks their finger out. No, you need to get back in line. You can't do this. Saturn is the parent that enforces the rules. And so if you got out of hand with your Venus, with Jupiter squaring it, then Saturn is going to come into play and have you put boundaries back in place, like fix things. Like now you're going to have to pay the piper with regards to wherever you OD'd, you overdid some things. And it's a fast moving aspect, so it's not going to stick around for too long. But if you fucked up, then Saturn is going to get you back in line, and you're going to fix whatever you messed up with regards to that Venus Jupiter conversation. Okay. And so that's what I wanted to say about that. Now, child, the biggie, we're going to have, like, we have a T square. We have a T square. So I want you to think, we talked about the opposition between the sun and the moon. The sun is in Leo, the moon is in Aquarius. And then, like, imagine if you drew a line from the middle of them, and out at the end of that midline of that line that you drew from the middle of each, like, you have Uranus, and Uranus is what we call T squaring, like you draw in a T, right? So Uranus is what we're saying is T squaring the moon. It's T squaring the sun. Ooh, child. Now, we talked about Uranus being what it embodies. Like, it represents, Uranus wants to give you freedom, for better or worse. It wants to free you from, if it's not serving you, Uranus is going real quick. Uranus represents lightning, shocking, action, disruption, sudden, wake up, shake up. It's the wake up, shake up. Okay. And so with Uranus squaring, it's trying to bring you something, or break you away from something, so it can bring you to something. Shockingly, surprisingly, abruptly, and quick. Okay? Abrupt is the same thing as quick, but you get what I'm saying. And it brings chaos with it. You know what I mean? Or it can bring chaos. I mean, it might bring you something that have to make you move quick, but it's something that you actually wanted, right? So before this actually happens, let me back up a little bit. So you have Uranus is in Taurus. The moon and sun are in Aquarius and Leo. We talked about that, right? Lord. We have another big aspect or conversation that's happening. And this conversation this is usually not a good conversation. And this conversation is the square between Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn, they just flat out don't like each other. I mean, not for real. Because maybe they like each other. Maybe they do, but this ain't real. This is not a good conversation. And so Jupiter is in Gemini. And Jupiter is in an air sign. And in Gemini, it tends to be all over the freaking place. Yes, Jupiter expands everything that it touches. It want to give gifts. It wants to do all of those things. But Gemini is an air sign. And so it's all over the goddamn place. It's everywhere. There's no structure to it. It's like, and it can be blown out of proportion. Okay. So then you have Jupiter squaring Saturn. And Saturn is like, oh, hell to the no. Like, that Jupiter kite is not going to fly. Okay? No. We need order. We need order in the court. We need boundaries. Are we following the rules? Like, you giving all of these gifts, you allowing all of this kite to fly. Like, what is this affecting? Right? Is this causing chaos? Have you even checked to see how given this thing is going to affect everything else? No, you haven't. And so we're going to put structure to this. That's what Saturn is doing. But before this square even happens, and it's happening on the same day as the full moon, Lord have mercy. It's being energized by the full moon. So it's even bigger than what it would ordinarily be without this energy giving it that boost. Let's back up a couple days, though. Now, on August the 14th, we had Mars going into Gemini. Now, Mars is like, Mars sets it off. Wherever Mars goes, like it's going into Gemini and it's conjuncting Jupiter. Mars is triggering Jupiter. So Jupiter is already expanding. It's already doing what it's doing. Imagine it being triggered by Mars. It's really going crazy. Mars is energizing Jupiter to go ham. Okay? To go ham. It's like, yes, do you. And it's like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It's giving. We can't have all these cars on the road because they're going to crash. No, I'm just kidding. But Mars is energizing Jupiter. And then Mars and Saturn don't get along. So just think Mars is like the go, go, go. I don't think, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get shit done. I don't care what havoc I wreak in the process of getting done what I need to get done and getting what I want. And Saturn is and it's young energies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm ready to go. And Saturn is the old, like, gray beard. No. You cannot. You need to calm down. And so on the 16th, Mars squares Saturn, agitating Saturn. Like, nah. Look what I did. I set Jupiter off, and this is going to piss you off. So that's adding fuel to the fire. Okay. But again, Saturn is like, never mind who you thought I was. I'm Saturn, bitch. You are not getting away with this. You're not. Okay? You're not. So it's a lot of stuff going on. And that is what makes this energy so crazy. It is like, we don't know really like what is going to happen. But again, like, we got to be prepared. And at the end of the day, this energy is going to bring us to our better selves, and what it is it's going to make us that much closer, because we are supposed to evolve. We are supposed to grow, and at the end of the day, this energy is helping us to do that. How are you going to use it? How is it affecting you in your chart? Well, we about to get into that right now. What is going on, my lovely Libras? So what does the planetary energy hold for you during this time that we're going to have the full moon on August the 19th, 2024? This energy is crazy. It's thick, it's loaded, it's potent, it's dynamic, and it's affecting all of us. And I do want to emphasize that because it's so potent, it's actually giving energy to every other conversation that's happening in the sky between the heavenly bodies. So how are these aspects in these planetary conversations going to affect you, Libra? So first off, we have Mercury in in Leo, and Mercury is actually retrograde, and it's been retrograde since August the 4th. And Leo is your 11th house, and it is squaring Uranus in Taurus. So first of all, let's talk about what Mercury is. Mercury is our thought processes, it's our ideas, it's our information both available to us on the conscious level and the subconscious level. It's how we understand one another. It's how we exchange ideas. It's how we communicate. It rules business transactions. It rules short trips. It rules communication of all forms, transportation of all forms. And it's in your 11th house. And it's being squared by Uranus. And what is Uranus? So Uranus is associated with freedom. And we say freedom because it wants to liberate us. So it has a liberating energy. Think of it splits things apart suddenly. Think of breaking apart. I mean, it rules earthquakes and lightning and shocking events that happen suddenly. It rules surprises. I call it the wake up, shake up energy. It rules rebellions. And it's on a collective level, like that could be chaotic energy. So that's actually happening. It's squaring the energies in your 11th house. And so your 11th house deals with transformation, or actually that's your 8th house. So yes, it is coming from your 8th house, and your 8th house deals with transformation and crisis and our attitudes toward crisis. It rules sexuality, it rules death, it rules rebirth, it rules growth and transformation, regenerative energies. It rules our partners' resources and psychologies, taxes, insurances, divorces, inheritance, alimony, things like that. And so it's squaring the 11th house, and the 11th house rules our acquaintances, friendships. It rules our hopes and wishes, our goals and dreams, personal goals, our sense of our true purpose and things like that. And so we have the sign of information in that 11th house being squared by the shock and awe campaign of Uranus. Let me just say, like, yes, it's squaring, and squaring could be a pretty harsh energy. It is the energy, or brings the energy of conflict and struggle and battle and things like that. I just don't think it's going to be at full speed because, number one, Uranus does not like to be in Taurus. It's in what we call in the fall, so it doesn't have its full power in Taurus. And another reason why I don't think it's a bad thing, because Mercury is actually in Leo, and Mercury is going to be joining the sun on the same day that it's squaring Uranus on the 18th. And we normally say that when any planet joins the sun, it is combust, meaning that it burns up and you don't get the full power of that planet's energy because the sun is just way too powerful for it. That is absolutely not the case at this time on the 18th, because when Mercury joins the sun, it's going to be far enough away to where it's going to get the sun's energy and the sun's goodness. So when we get the glory from the sun, we're happy, we're joyful, like we're creative. It's energy, it's energetic. It gives us dignity, like we feel confident, we're ready to go, we're ready to take the lead, like our creative juices are running, like we are ready to do our thing when we get the good pieces or the good energy from the sun. And Mercury is getting all of that, and that is what and it's forming what we call a kazoo, which brings blessings. So we're going to be getting blessings from this Mercury Sun conjunction that's actually being squared by Taurus. And so I don't feel like it's a bad thing. I feel like you're going to be getting some information that is useful to you, and it's going to come suddenly by way of your 8th house. So if you're getting a divorce, if you're trying to work out money issues that's related to you and other people, sudden good information is going to be great for you. Like, I feel like you're actually gonna win. Okay. I don't feel like it's gonna be bad. It could be erratic, and people might act in erratic ways, but I think because the energy is so potent, and it's such great news, it's such what you've been wanting to hear, and you might, hit the roof or whatever. So I don't necessarily feel like that's bad. Now, moving on the next day, on the 19th, the actual day of the full moon, we have Venus in Virgo. Now, you are ruled by Venus. Venus is you. You don't like to be in Virgo. You feel strangled in Virgo. You feel restricted in Virgo. You feel criticized by Virgo. You cannot be all you can be in Virgo. You don't like to be there. And this is happening in your 12th house. So it's things that are hidden from you. The 12th house is the house of self-undoing. It's the house of karma. It's the house of your soul's growth. It's where our strengths and our weaknesses both are hidden from us. It's dreams. It's our private affairs. You could be having one, hopefully not. In spiritual studies, it's being squared by Jupiter and Gemini in your 9th house. Let me just make sure. Yeah, Jupiter and Gemini in your ninth house. So this is kind of spiritual for you too. But while Virgo doesn't like to be in Venus, Jupiter does not like to be in Gemini either. So neither one of them are in their full capacity. Neither one of them are giving us their full glory, because they don't like to be in the houses that they're in. They don't feel welcome there. And so with Jupiter in Gemini, it could be overindulgent. It can be over optimistic. It can be overdoing what it needs to be. It could just be overdoing things. So if Jupiter is in your 9th house, and your 9th house deals with your own personal beliefs, your own sense of adventure, are you doing too much of that? Do you not have concrete religious beliefs or a personal philosophy? Like, you might need to solidify that. Like, are your personal truths just overblown or just not really in keeping with reality? Well, it's squaring Venus and Virgo in the 12th house. So it's going to show you where you're overdoing it and how you're, sabotaging yourself with these beliefs or these personal philosophies that just may not be in touch with reality. And not to worry, because shortly thereafter, Venus in Virgo is going to oppose Saturn in Pisces in your 6th house, and it's going to show you where you're out of whack. So what routines, like what are your daily personal philosophy rituals? It's going to show you things that you can put in place so that you can kind of bring those personal philosophies back down to earth and in alignment, or in a configuration that is in alignment with your highest soul's growth. Okay. So you'll be able to put some order to that there, with Saturn showing you where you're out of bounds with your personal philosophies. Now, moving on in the 19th, further on in the day, we are going to have the full moon. And what is a full moon? The full moon is an opposition. It's when two planets sits 180 degrees across the sky from one another, and they have a conversation. And sometimes the conversation are pleasant, and sometimes they're not so pleasant. In this case, I don't think that the conversation is going to be unpleasant. Number one, we have the sun in Leo staring back at the moon in Aquarius. They're across from each other 180 degrees. We already talked about the sun loving the being in the sign of Leo. That's its home sign. So it's feeling good, and it's very energized. It's at its full power, and it's shining that energy and giving that vigor and giving that warmth and that goodness to the moon in Aquarius in your, let's see, what house is that? In your fifth house, right? Your house of self-expression, creative self-expression, your house of pleasure and entertainment, and, the center stage, your romantic relationships. It's lighting it up. It's giving it good. So what does the moon hold for us? The moon holds our deepest desires, our ideals that we don't express to people, that we hold very close to us, and we might not have the words. It's like the thing that we know, but we don't put the words to it. It's just that thing, that deep desire, that ideal we have of ourselves, in the space that moon is occupying. It's occupying your fifth house. So what are your deepest desires of the fifth house? Well, the sun is shining light and blasting that with energy. And then when we have the full moon, that's a public display. So it's like it's putting X-ray vision on that, and it's giving it energy to call it forth so that those ideals can be made manifest in a beautiful way. The sun, after all, is exalted, and it's in its full power, and it's giving that power to the moon in your fifth house. Come on now. Come on, that's good. So what is it that you want to bring forth with regard to romance, with regard to your creative self-expression, with regards to your children? You can bring it down now. And that might seem a little erratic, because it's new energy bursting forward. It's raw and it's untamed. And so that's why it might feel chaotic. But at the end of the day, it's still good because it aligns with your deepest desires. Don't necessarily think that's bad. Yes, it's being squared by Uranus in your eighth house of sexuality. Ooh, so what you got going on, Libra, right? It's being squared from your eighth house of transformation, regeneration. So what regenerative qualities are you giving to that fifth house, or is coming to that fifth house from the eighth house? It's being squared by Uranus, but I don't think that it's so bad, because Uranus is not giving us all the smoke, because it's not at its full power. But nevertheless, it's still giving us that shock and awe factor. Are you telling your special someone you love them? Are you proposing? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I want to know. I don't think that it's that bad. But moving on, in the same day, we have probably the biggest energy that's happening, and that's being emboldened and enlivened by the full moon. It's Jupiter in Gemini in your ninth house, squaring the sun in squaring Saturn in Pisces of your sixth house. But let's back up a few moments, because we got to tell the whole story about this energy. So before the 19th, we had Mars move into Gemini and conjunct Jupiter in your ninth house. We already said that Jupiter does not like to be in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini could be irresponsible. It can be overindulgent. It could be over optimistic. It could just be given things that doesn't necessarily serve us, because it's just too much and too all over the place, because after all, Gemini is an air sign. And so when Mars goes there, it's this raw energy that acts like it blows up the energy of Jupiter. Like, it just makes it explode. So Jupiter is really all over the place. That happened on August 14th. And on August 16th, Mars moved and moseyed along and just really is starting trouble with, with Saturn. Mars and Saturn don't necessarily get along. Like, think of Mars as the young soldier who wants to just charge full speed ahead without orders, without a plan. And Saturn is like that old general that has the plan, that knows that if you walk 2 clicks to the left, you're going to get your head blown off, right? So this Mars is agitating Saturn on the 16th, like just further causing trouble. And so when Jupiter and and Saturn actually square off on the 19th, this energy is so way overblown. But because Jupiter is not in its full power, Saturn is going to be the power broker here. And it's going to say, no, you don't get to fly that kite in the Gemini air. I'm Saturn, and you're going to do what I'm telling you to do. You're going to put boundaries here. You're going to put rules. You're going to put order. You're going to have a plan, and you're going to do it by the book. You're not going to be overblown. You're not. And that's not, it might not feel good, but it's going to be to your biggest and your greatest advantage. And this Jupiter is in your 9th house. So how are your personal philosophies just wrong, and maybe your morals is just questionable, maybe your beliefs are just not solidified, and it's just getting way too out of control and starting to get you in trouble. And Saturn is saying, like, no, we're going to put order here, order in the court from your 6th house. So you're going to put methods and daily routines in place to kind of rein it back in. And ultimately, Saturn is asking you, this square is asking you to find your power. This configuration actually started in 2020 in December, when Jupiter and Saturn actually came together. When two planets come together, think of the mother and father planting a seed. And so what seed was planted in 2020? When we have the opposition, that's when the seed is made manifest, or it bears fruit. And the halfway point, you can say, is the square, which shows us how far have we come and what's actually working since we planted this seed. And we're not going to allow it to continue forward unless we fix what's wrong with it, unless we take out some of these weeds. And it might feel uncomfortable, and you might not want to let go of some things, but the square, the struggle, the conflict, the tension is asking you to get rid of some things that just don't work. And so you have to find your strength to do that. The square is asking you, who do you need to become so that you can realize or enjoy the manifestation of that seed that you planted. And we're not going to let you go any further until you fix it. And so be grateful that this energy is happening, and it's allowing you the chance to fix what you need to fix. It's allowing you to shed parts of yourself that is just not, frankly, worthy of the seed that you planted. You need to become your highest self to realize your greatest potential. And so if you don't shed what's no longer serving, then you can't really enjoy the fruits of that seed that was planted. And so you guys, you let me know if you learned anything from this. Let me know how the energy is handling you, or better yet, how you're handling the energy, because you're equipped. And I know that you're going to be winning. I know that you're going to be composed, because the composed always wins. The prepared always wins. And so if it's going to be raining, I know you are prepared with your raincoat, your rain boots, your rain jacket. And I know if you got to fight, you got your sword out and you got your shield and you're ready to go, because I prepared you. Let me know how you were able to conquer this energy, and who you feel that you have become as a result of being able to handle what's coming forward. If you got some goodness from this, like and subscribe, share with your people. And until next time, you guys, keep your hearts open and your spirits connected.